So over the years, I've been photographing all kinds of things and people, landscapes. And in the last, say 14 years, I've been working for the tourism office. And that has provided quite an opportunity for me to photograph things going on in Winona, different events and activities and our landscape. And we often use them in, our marketing materials. So, my medium is photography. And I've been a member of River Arts Alliance probably about 5 years now. So, today we are going to take a look at how to, on a very basic level, how to photograph your artwork. It's kind of interesting. As a photographer myself, my art is the photography. So it's kind of an interesting twist to take the photos of other people's artwork. So what we plan to do today is just like I said, a basic overview of how to take works of art. And we're going to focus on a 2D piece and a 3D piece. So where we are right now is in Heidi's home. We decided to do it here, and we've set it up so that we're in a room here that has a beautiful big window with natural light coming in, and she has a beautiful lace curtain which kind of diffuses the light. So because I just really feel like that's kind of a good starting place, is to have a good room with some good natural light. Also, we're hopeful that everybody is in possession of a phone that now, of course, has been being used as a camera. So I happen to own an iPhone SE, and I've been very pleased with it. It has produced quality photography and video. So I use it for both. And I am, like I said, I'm very pleased with it. So we're kind of hoping that's the direction of this workshop, is how to use a phone to take photos of your work. And I have talked with a couple artists that is all they use is their phone. So, and the idea is to use it for web. So I think that we're okay there. So again, I've got my phone, and I want to also tell you about this. It's called a pistol tripod. And I use that not all the time, but plenty of times to handhold the camera, so that it provides me a little more stability. And that it also turns into a tripod when I can spread out these legs and put it on a tabletop, basically. So those are the two things that we're going to use today to take these pictures, these photos.
And how much did your tripod cost, Mary?
My tripod, this cost me, I got it at Walmart, I have to say, and it was what, $8. So it's very, very reasonable, a lot more than the phone. So anyway, what we'd like to do today is, like I said, a 3D and a 2D, and we're going to just kind of show you the proper way to take a photo, and maybe show you some mistakes that people might make when they're taking photos. So we're gonna start with actually this painting. It is one of Julia Crozier's. It's Heidi's. We just basically have used what Heidi has in her home, because she has purchased a lot of artwork over the years and lots of local art. So of course, it wouldn't be good to photograph something that has glass on it, because obviously because of the glare and such. So this obviously is a canvas. So, okay, now we set it up here against a wall. You can either hang it, you could hang, just if you have your piece of art that's already hung on the wall, that's fine. What we're doing today is we've got it leaning almost flush with the wall, because you really want to try to make a straight photo. So, and then as we know, Heidi will be covering some editing, and that could also make up for if there's a little bit of skewing. Thank you. That's the word we want to look for. Okay. So I, turn my camera on, or I turn my phone on, and I hit camera. And like I said, I just it has such good quality, it has wonderful innards. I mean, I almost sometimes prefer this over my SLR, my single lens reflex. I mean, I have one, of course, and it's wonderful, but I'm feeling more and more like this has some innards that really are almost superior to my SLR, my Canon camera. So I'm going to walk over here and I'm going to, hand hold this pistol tripod, and I'm going to, just do as much as I can to hand hold it and steady it. And I don't want the frame in there. I just want the actual painting. So the lighting in here, again, I've got the natural light coming in from the window, and we have a lamp on that also is bouncing. It's a bare bulb and it's bouncing off the ceiling. So that helps with, the main thing is having a nice diffused light that covers, so you're not having light and shadow. You want kind of a very seamless light that's all one light source. So I'm going to take this photo, a couple of photos, and I can show you. You can all see that. So, I mean, how does that look? Are people able to see that? What that might look like? I can't bring it up.
Yeah.
So and one of the things, we want to do is you really want to get a photo that has good resolution, good quality. So what I do is I zoom in on the photo, and I look to see if there's detail, when I zoom in, and that it gives me a indication that it's a good quality photo. So that is that photo. And then we're going to do another 2D one. And this one, we're doing a horizontal one this time.
It's okay if you get the frame in there.
Okay. So this one has a frame, and Heidi was saying it's okay. You don't have to like totally crop in, because you can do cropping later for sure. So you can, it's okay. But if you can try to not have the frame, that's okay. That works too. So again, we're leaning against the wall. We've got the bounce light. We've got the natural light coming in, and kind of have to stoop a little bit. So I'm stooping, and I'm holding out of the camera, and I am capturing. So it's, again, this is what I'm getting. Okay, this is what I'm getting. And I'm zooming in with the picture. So it's good, again, it's just good lighting. One thing I can say too is that when you're with this camera, you can, if you're going to shoot something, let's just say, you can actually be editing it within the photo. You can choose to lighten or darken it. You can do, let's get a little closer here. You can darken it, you can lighten it. And so you can do that right as before you even take the photo. Or you can, another feature too is, say that maybe you don't have a tripod, or say that you really want to make sure you do a sharp photo, then you can time it. So on this camera, you could choose like 3 seconds or 5 seconds. That way, you're not worried about camera shake. So you could do that right in the photo if you prefer. I think that's what we were, yeah. Okay. Now, the next thing we were going to cover was a 3D piece of art. And if there's any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, or
this. And that thing on there connect with this one, right?
What we're doing here is, this is a backdrop that we're going to use for the piece of pottery. And as you can tell, we're using, actually, I'm borrowing this from my friend Teresa Shoemaker. And, but it's a matter of just kind of using things that are kind of in your own home. You don't have to be fancy. So that's what we did. We kind of propped up the backdrop with the painting.
And we have a question. What kind of fabric is that backdrop?
It's a kind of a polyester,
It's velvety.
velvety polyester.
So it doesn't have a sheen to it, which is, I think, what makes it a good backdrop, because it's not reflecting any light or anything like that.
So again, it's positioning your piece of art, your 3D piece of art onto this backdrop. And it really is, the backdrop is important for this kind of artwork, and preferably something that is, neutral. It could be white, it could be black. I've read where even gray, and we might be showing you a piece where I photographed something at home with a gray backdrop, just to kind of set the piece of art apart from the back. I think I'm going to turn this off a little bit, because we had a nice. I'm just trying to remember how we had that darker background.
Yeah, we had more sunlight.
Yeah,
last week when we tried
yeah.
it.
So the other day, actually, we were practicing, and I did a shoot of this piece of pottery with the backdrop, and it was so this is not, I'm gonna have to just say this, it's not the best. Let's go back to the one that I took the other day.
And then Mary, do you want to show us what that lamp looks like too, just so people can see what the different options are for where that light's coming from?
So can you, let's see.
So it's just one of the, pointing up lights, and this is kind of handy, because if we wanted to, maybe it's too bright, but you could bend around and try different things with that. But really, it's just a fluted or tulip light that goes up to the ceiling and has a what do you call it?
Frosted glass.
Frosted
yeah.
glass thing, so that makes it very diffuse.
Oh, so this is the one I took when I was here the other day, that has a little better quality, where the backdrop is very dark compared to the piece of pottery. But I think we're going to show some of that in the year. Okay.
And
so,
just, sorry, Mary, would you say maybe, was there better natural light the other day? Do you think
Yes.
it's a little dark out there today?
when we were here on Sunday, we had much more sunlight. Yes. Right. So it does, and I would recommend shooting on a day where you have much more sunlight available.
That's the luxury that most artists have, and not a pre-planned Zoom meeting that might turn out to be gray, but you can check your weather and plan to do it on a beautiful day.
Yeah.
When you can really have that natural light.
Yeah.
Benefit of that.
Unless you want to, you certainly can invest in more. You can invest in more special lighting for sure. We're just trying to keep this simple for today to, and also, I wanted to also say that, you can go outside and take pictures of your artwork, I did go outside earlier today. I was checking on taking a photo of my grandmother's painting, but it was just still too overcast. So, but I think you can on a beautiful day that's kind of semi-cloudy, not too much cloud, not too much sun, that in between light, perfect lighting for doing an outdoor shoot. Okay, so we did that. And then we're going to keep this backdrop. And then we're going to do this other piece of pottery, and we're going to shoot it looking straight down on it.
The primary difference between these two pieces of pottery is the first one is a very matte finish, and this one has the gloss,
Yeah.
which can be tricky.
So it's basically just standing straight over it. You know, just like I said, when you're photographing a piece of a painting, or you want straight on. So this would be a matter of just looking straight on over this and getting this would be if there is some glare, and that's okay. I think a little glare is okay. Maybe you could tweak it a bit, but it would take quite a bit, I think, to tweak something and
But also the glare lets people know that it's a gloss finish.
mm-hmm.
So you do need, you don't want it to mat it out too much so it doesn't accurately look like what it is.
Right. So so those were those are the things we wanted to cover, were the 2D and the 3D and the lighting situation. Does anybody have any questions on how this is set up? Do you have some place at home that you feel like would be a good fit for this, or are you struggling a bit to figure out how to properly light your artwork? Okay. One other thing we were going to talk about was so I borrowed this from my friend Teresa. It's kind of it's a all polyester, kind of a light box where you can put your piece of artwork into this light piece or into this light box, and then it diffuses it, from every direction. So that's something that, again, I think Teresa invested in this because, she is a potter and does a lot of work with the web and grant writing. So she wants to get a good quality photo. So she did invest in some materials, but I know that she also is getting ready for the art walk and is doing a lot of photos outside. One thing I wanted to address if you're taking photos outside of your artwork is just to be, like I said, that kind of semi-cloudy, semi-sunny day. But I still think it would be important to have a background that isn't cluttered, doesn't have a lot of natural elements maybe in the back, like trees or leaves or whatever, because then it really kind of distracts from your piece of art. So if there's a way that you had some kind of a backdrop that you could use with the outdoor lighting, I think that would be ideal. Yeah.
So we do have a couple of questions and comments in the chat here. Kate, did you want to say a little bit more about your comment here about pottery?
Well, I mean, I'll just say that there's so many different forms that oftentimes you need a profile picture too. I mean, even a bowl, I like to show what the foot looks like, so that, I think you need at least 2 views of most 3-dimensional pieces. And sometimes I'll even do a detail too, if I work in sculpture and pottery. So, I think it gets a little more complicated. That's all.
Yeah.
It does. I'm going to talk a bit about how we handle images at RAA, and what I've done for recent exhibits that we've had to do online is for pottery pieces and sculptural pieces, there will be 2 images instead of 1, because we do want to see it from different angles. And, that is a very important part of that process. And with a bowl, sometimes the decoration on the inside is different from the outside, and you do want to get multiple views of that. So it is careful, but continuity is my main thing. So if you're taking pictures of a bowl, put it in the same backdrop, have the same lighting, just change the angle of the piece so that you have a consistent storyline for the piece, basically.
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
so I don't know if this feels too simple. But like I said, I really value my camera. I feel like that does a really good job. When maybe there are pieces of the light, maybe where the light isn't properly perfect or something, it kind of makes up for that. So yeah, I'd be curious to find out if you all are currently shooting with your phones, or if you are using other cameras.
So right now, Terry has a question. Do you always shoot straight on?
Yeah, yeah.
Two-dimensional, yeah.
For two-dimensional, just to keep it completely, straight. And but well, with the 3D, okay, so you could do those different, take it from the right, take it from the left, or whatever. But definitely for a 2D, you want to make it nice and straight. If you look at some of, yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the RAA artists' images, they pretty much are, because it is 2D.
Yeah,
That's just
yeah.
how it works.
Yeah, I have some samples upstairs. I'm going to go to the computer upstairs in a few minutes. I think, Terry, for like books and things, because a book it's got a two-dimensional cover, but it also, you want to show the thickness and everything. So you could be creative in how you position your book for photographing. But if you're doing a gallery of a lot of book images, I would want them to be positioned the same way. So there's not a lot of, chaos on the page and wonkiness on the page. But absolutely, with a book, I would play around with different angles and different positions and different ways, and even stacks, and there are a lot of different things you could do with books.
Yeah, one of the things that I was running into trouble with is if I lay the book flat and then took the picture, and there was always glare.
Right.
But I didn't try setting the book straight up and coming straight on that way, because if you come at a book from an angle, there's that parallax, so it looks.
Probably some distortion.
One of the things I'm going to do when I go upstairs is just a demonstration of how you deal with the skewing, because you can straighten out images. It's best to get one as close to square as possible and do minor tweaking, because if you let the computer do it, some things may get out of proportion. But a lot of book covers are glossy, so maybe it's a matter of really working to find the right kind of diffuse light to not have that reflection. I think that's what you're dealing with, is the reflection because of the gloss cover, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's kind
Yeah.
of like dealing with stuff behind glass. We want to emphasize, everybody who puts stuff behind glass, take your picture first. Take your picture before you frame and put it behind glass, because once it's behind glass, it's a real pain to take it out. and a lot of artists that I've worked with have kind of got mad at themselves for not remembering that, because you're all into the process and finishing the process, and it's complete, and it's like, oh, bummer, I forgot to take a picture of it before I put it behind glass. So
Yeah, I think too, yeah, Terry, like with anything glossy again too, is maybe to have some sort of this, either, some kind of light box, or you could have certain, maybe some tracing paper, or, make a makeshift box, so that light is coming more indirectly rather than directly on to your book or book cover.
And do you try to not use flash then?
Well, that's a good question. I think there's a time where you could use a bounce flash, where you would, again, like this light we were using, this lamp we were using, that that if you maybe bounce it off of the ceiling or off of a white wall or white ceiling, that would again diffuse the light. So I think you could do that. It's not preferred, but I think if you're in a low light situation and you probably need to get a photo off to somebody or something, you could definitely refer to that. But I don't know. Now, the flash on the camera is a little more direct. So it could just, because sometimes flash is helpful that it fills in. It fills in where there's shadow and that kind of thing. So it's good for that. It's just, I think, a matter of experimenting with it.
What I found with the cell phone photography, I have a Pixel. I'm not an Apple person. I have a Pixel that has a good camera. If you focus on the area you want to focus on, if you tap your finger on that item on the screen, it'll brighten that item up. So you can choose where you want the camera to focus just by touching the screen, which is so much easier than a regular camera. But I've noticed that brightens it up, and sometimes allows the camera to do the lighting adjustment you need by telling the camera what you want, what is the most important part of the picture, right?
So are you all have phones and using your phones? Is that?
Nuts.
I can't tell.
So we have a question. We have a couple more questions here. Linda was wondering, will you address what to do if there's too much light?
Oh, I think Linda, you said, yeah, you're at the Mississippi studios. Yeah, well then you'll have to figure out, like Heidi here has these kind of lace curtains. So I don't know if you have some shades or something, or if you have some way to diffuse that light by putting up something over the window. Like a curtain, a sheer curtain or something, or a light piece of white paper, something that will deflect some of that light.
So paper will work for that, something?
A very thin, like a tracing paper, something like that.
Okay.
If there was a way to cover up the window with more sheer kind of paper.
Because I find no matter where I put almost anywhere in my house, even because there's so many windows,
so much light.
no matter where I go, maybe I just have to find a different location to try to photograph my work.
What are your windows like? Do you have some coverings on the windows, or
No, they're just all open.
Yeah.
I don't have any of them covered up.
I
But I
almost
was
feel
just
like
wondering, can you just use like maybe a sheet or something, or do you put a drape behind? Do you put it behind what you're photographing?
Well, the idea is that you shouldn't have the light coming from behind you. It probably should either coming from the left or the right, so that you're not having that direct sunlight right onto your piece.
Okay.
But it sounds like you have lights coming
yeah.
from every direction.
All around. Yeah.
I almost feel like you need to have a studio section for at your place, Linda, like your little kitchenette or something, that if you could, because that's a darker area that you might be able to control the light in, or if there's a room or a bathroom or something where you could set up a background behind it, but control the light that's coming in, because with all the windows in there, which are what makes your space spectacular, it's going to be a challenge all the time. And I would experiment with other locations in the house, or, it doesn't have to be a big room to do, unless you're doing large pieces of art, you could have a small space that would accommodate that.
And Linda, can you take some of your pieces outside on a kind of more semi-cloudy, semi-sunny day?
Yeah, I can do that. And I thank you, Mary, so much for that suggestion for that pistol tripod. Because I always have I don't know about anybody else, but I get my hands in my pictures all the time. Good idea. Thank you.
Julie Johnston, what is your method?
My method, well, in my studio, I have windows on two sides, so that's hard too. So I wait for a cloudy day, but I use my phone sometimes, and sometimes I use a nice smaller digital camera. I find I can better control that, but this is John Erickson too, and he had the question too. Sometimes when I take my photos, the color isn't the same as the original painting or pastel. So I had a question about that, but I don't know if that's a Heidi question or not. I mean, I know I can go in on my phone and
You have to adjust that white balance.
yes.
That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Because, and they really want you to, you know, just use natural light, because natural light is kind of the same.
It is and it isn't. I
It
don't
is
know.
and it
It's,
isn't,
yeah, it still changes a lot. It's just interesting. And maybe it's just going to be that way because when it shows up on people's computers, it's always different too.
Yeah, right. Is there a difference between your phone and your point and shoot or DSLR?
It seems to me it is. I like my point shooter sometimes a little better,
Yeah. Mhm.
but I have an older phone.
John, you had a question?
That was the question. I
Oh.
I shot a bunch of photos a month ago and posted them. And they all shifted towards the peach, you know, they were cool blue landscape paintings and they all shifted towards kind of a peachy orangey hue.
Oh, when you took the,
When they're posted on my website.
yeah.
And we had to go back in and edit some of them, and that you really can't get it all out of it.
No.
They shifted warm.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I think it's a matter of, I don't know, in your camera settings, you know, making sure that.
I know it, I've gone through a couple different iPads and a couple different phones,
Yeah.
and
They all do different things, yeah.
they do different things. My older iPad that I've shot a lot of photos with tended to push them warm also. They skewed orangey yellow. So my new iPhone does a better job. It's more correct on the blues.
Yeah, what iPhone do you have now, John?
A 10, i10.
Yeah, I've got it, like I said, I have an SC, and like I said, I'm very pleased with it. in
Yep,
terms
I'm
of
very pleased with my phone too.
Yeah, so maybe it is, sometimes our phones and our cameras aren't quite,
I don't own a camera anymore. It just
yeah.
it hardly seems worth it when you pay that much for an iPhone and the cameras are pretty successful. So it's,
Well, the other challenge is that we're working in, you know, on the screen is a light-based color thing, and it's different from when you print. It's always difficult to get on screen what it's going to look like when you print it, and we're so used to printed photos that sometimes we're disappointed with how they look on screen. But we're, you know, it's a different medium, so you do have to make adjustments. But also another person's monitor may be set up in a different way that shows colors, and you know, the colors may be perfect on somebody else's monitor and look funny on yours.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a compromised platform no matter what we do. The most important thing to me is to make sure you get the sharpest image you can, and as square and as much information, you know, as much of the detail as possible. That's kind of the best we can do. And when we can adjust the colors, like there are things you can do in Photoshop and stuff to adjust the saturation of the color, that sort of thing. I do that a lot with photos of people that come out way too red. You know, there's just a lot of that it's easier with people because you know what people look like, so you can make adjustments to make them more lifelike on the screen. But you know, there are all kinds of challenges.
Okay, and just a comment in the chat, Preston suggests you can get a color card and use that to adjust things too. Preston, I don't know if you wanted to come off mute and say anything else about that.
Is it like a gray card? Yeah.
Otherwise, Heidi, do you want to go and get ready to share your screen right now?
That's what I'm doing.
I was gonna ask, has anyone ever had their photos rejected or artwork rejected based on the images they sent to website or a grant program or? What were you gonna say, Preston?
Yeah, color is a real important thing, and especially if you're a painter or someone that's dealing with color, pastels and different things. As a grant reviewer, sometimes it's like, well, it looks like a gray landscape, and I can't tell if it's as beautiful, rich color as Julie Johnson's pastels or whatever. So it's like it doesn't really warrant grant money or acceptance into a gallery. So you really need to make sure that your color is exact, as close as possible. Your clarity is good. The color card, I was trying to find mine and I can't do it. Looks kind of like a rainbow. It's got 6 or 8 colors, and you just prop it up against your piece for one of them. It doesn't matter. You're not going to be showing it, but when you're getting ready to either have that printed at a printer or a giclée print or a poster made or whatever, it's like, I think it needs a little more red or a little more blue. The computer will be able to say that is a standard cyan, that is a standard yellow, and it will adjust. So the yellow looks orange, so the computer will adjust it until it comes to the right standard color, and the right, it's kind of like a grayscale card, but in color.
So it's not a color wheel, Preston. It's just
No. It looks like a card, a rainbow of maybe 8 squares, 3-inch squares.
and it's printer colors. That's
Well, it's a number of colors, but it also has, processed colors kind of in it as well.
Thank you. Never heard of that.
Preston, what are you are you using a phone to photograph your work?
I do. I occasionally, and my phone is like everybody else's these days, is very good. It's almost as good as any camera. I do find that I can tweak things a little bit more with my camera, but I don't hesitate to shoot it for 90% of what I'm doing with my phone.
Mary, before Heidi gets started here, we had one more question a little while ago from Suzanne. If you want to say anything about this. For straight on shots of 3D pieces, do you center it or use a 3/4 view where there's more negative space at the top?
Oh, Suzanne, great question. I just, because I don't have a grid or anything on my phone, so I am just eyeballing it. I am just going straight on, in with the camera, just straight onto right up close to the painting, and clicking the shutter.
For 3D pieces, though, I noticed the
I'm
picture
sorry,
you
3D.
took.
I'm sorry.
The piece was down here instead of being up centered. Is that typically how you would photograph a 3D piece, or would you try to center it in the exact middle of the picture?
Yeah, I would center it personally.
Okay.
But again,
I'm going to chime in, Mary, and say consistency is king. If you do it one way for one, do it that way for the other ones, so that, when you're working, especially with 3-dimensional items, the way you photograph it can be part of your art and part of your signature. People will see a photo and know it's your piece, not just because of the style of the piece, but the way in which it was captured and photographed. So I think it's really important, especially with the 3D images, to just have that continuity. You're not going to see me, you just see my cat. That's Sonny. If you want to friend him on Facebook, he's Sonny Bryant. He's got 76 friends, but he's always looking for more. But my camera's downstairs, so you're just going to hear my voice. But I'm going to share my screen. And what I did today was, so many phone cameras have built-in software that does most of what I need. I'm coming to you as the person who set up the River Arts Alliance website and sets up the member pages and works with artist photographs all the time and deals with some of the problems that I get and that sort of thing. And the goal today is to make it easier for people who are, artists, to submit their work so it's ready to go.
So it's less time for us to work with it, but also we get a better quality product because you've taken the time and care to make sure it's ready to go. I get sometimes things that are, twisted and at a weird angle, and it's really kind of hard to get those right. And I get things that are blurry. And we just want people to really take care to do things that will work really well. So this is an app called Photoshop Express, which is free. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you this little video of the process of taking an image that's a little bit out of square, cropping it and sizing it specifically for the River Arts Alliance website. So like anything, you choose your image, and it's got a crop feature there. And with crop, you can rotate it. It'll show you, if you need to rotate it, you can easily do that. It does give you that grid. Then what I have to do a lot, I do it in Photoshop usually, but the skewing of it, I look at an image like this and make sure that there's equal amount of space on all four sides between the frame or the image and the edges of the screen. And that at that point, it's square, right? A lot of times you have these images and you don't really think about it until you see how much different spaces on either side. So there's there are just lots of different ways. Of course, this is the image we used earlier. Then I go to the aspect ratio, which is just height by width. Oh no, what happened? That's not good. I had a little bit of a bleep here on my, sorry. Let's go back to where we were. Probably an internet thing. But grabbing the corners to crop it into the size to just the image and get rid of the frame around it. And for the River Arts Alliance website, I have set the parameters of no wider than 1084 and no taller than 608, which I will show you in a minute what that looks like. So then I went back and cropped it a little bit more. And you can see it's not perfect, but this is what could be done in a minute and a half. So if you take your time with it, you can you get pretty good results. So that's what I ended up with, an image ready to go onto the River Arts Alliance website. But I started with a high quality image, which I would archive and save somewhere. So I always have a record of my, my good images in case I ever want to print them out, and then prepare them for the website. So if you're a member of, or thinking about being a member of the River Arts Alliance, on the website, I do have these the specifications of how you should send images to us to be on the website. And we have a header image. I'll show you pages in a second, and then gallery images. So the reason I set these parameters is because we don't want people stealing our members' artwork. So I set it in a way that it would look good on every size screen, but not be something that people could steal and print out and have for themselves. So that's why they exist. But I've also further protected it with, there's right click is disabled, so people can't right click on our images and save them to their computers. So we'll look at Julie Johnston's page. She just updated her page. Most of our header images are shorter than this and wider, but hers is so beautiful. And with the new design of the website, we have a little bit more flexibility in how we lay this out. But as you can see, I mean, this is a 1084 wide picture at 72 DPI, but it looks great, right, on the screen. But if you printed it out, it would not look good, because we don't want people, we want people to buy Julie's art, not take it. And so then in the gallery, all of these images, you click on them and they come up and they're all at the 608 high. And on the screen, it's you know, you can see the detail and you can see how beautiful it is without actually being able to, you know, download it and use it for other purposes. So that's basically how the web pages work. Let me see who else I have. Pete has kind of a consistency issue that I like. He does all of his on this kind of plywood background. So even though, you know, his work is distinctive as his own work, but it also has that distinction of, he always sends it in a square on a plywood background. And that's a simple thing, and it's a signature, and you know, example of what I was talking about with that. There are other free software things online. A friend of Mary's told us about this thing called Photo PEA, which if you can deal with the ads, which I don't care for, you can use this for free and do a lot of the kinds of things that Photoshop does. But if you don't want to have the ads, you can pay $40 a year for this thing. But what you can do, so this is one of Julie Johnston's images that I set up as like a header image. But you can start a new project and put in the size you want it to be. So our standard size for a header image is 1084 by 450. You create, and then you can open in place. You can bring in, did that go to the new project? Why is that still in there? Let me try that again. I don't know why it's still showing that image. Sorry. This is live television, people. Okay. I feel like my internet's slowing down a little bit for some reason. So you bring an image in there. This isn't good for to slow down right now. Does anybody who out there already works with Photoshop or something else, or has a free program that they use, or is there anybody who has any thoughts on, you know, processing your images after you take them, or questions? Because this is being slow.
I use Photoshop because I get that as a bundle with, I use InDesign to format the books. So
Right.
it's bundled together. So I just use Photoshop. It's not cheap though.
No, I mean, I have used like 10 of the Adobe programs, so it works for me price wise, but for most people, it's not really a good option. Photoshop by itself, I think, is about $20 a month. So you bring in an image, and then you have to fill out the space with it and crop it and that sort of thing. To size proportionately, you always have to hold down the shift key if you don't know that already. Except I think they just changed that on Photoshop. But you want to make sure that you size things proportionately and you don't do this number, because that's not right. There's some websites out there that just drive me crazy that have, you know, like pictures of kids at school that are just really tall and skinny or short and fat, because people don't really understand aspect ratio. But you know, starting with the shape of the thing, and this is kind of a handy tool to go ahead and start with the image size you want, and then put your image in it and crop it to fit that. Now, we probably don't want to crop an image like this that much. So we would, want a bigger box for that. But with the new format, you can have more flexibility with how you do your where's Julie Johnston? So we can use a full-size image now and go from that. So I guess I want to know what kind of other issues that people run into after they've taken their pictures, and what they, what kind of questions do you have about processing them after the fact? Any questions?
I have a question about resolution. The resolution you need on the screen is not the same as what you need when you're going to print it. Do you have any tips on that?
Yeah, I always take high quality. I would always want to start with a high quality image. In Photoshop, you can save for the web, and like this one we set up as the size that we would want it to be for the screen. We set it up as 1084 by 450 at 72 DPI, which is what the screen resolution would be. But let me go ahead and launch Photoshop, and I'll show you what happens there. What you do is you export it in the dimensions you want, at the size you want. And that maintains the existing image. So if you do want to print it later and use it in a different format, you have that always available. But go on Photoshop.
Now for a print, like for printing an image in a book, you need to have at least 300 DPI.
Yeah, typically, images are funny because you can do 180 for images, because for text and that sort of thing, it really has to be at least 300. But if your files are getting too big to handle, I always use 300 DPI, but that's not necessarily what you have to have for good print quality. Let's just open this. Let me try. I don't know. Got a weird message there, so. Oh, sorry. I have two monitors, so it's beeping on my one that I'm not looking at. Sorry. So this is the cover for the art walk and tour. And if we look at what the actual image size is, it's 7.5 inches by 10 inches at 300 DPI. So that's a big file. It says it's 39 megabyte file, right? So what I do is I save it for the web, but it's a keystroke thing that I do. So you can choose what you want, what kind of file you want. I did learn something recently that Facebook automatically resizes things and degrades the quality if you use a JPEG, but they don't do that with pings. So that's a little trick that I didn't know, that so you can export it as a PNG instead of a JPEG and not have Facebook mess it up. So it says what the image size right now is 2267 by 3017. It tells me over here that it's a 605K file exported at that size. So if I change it to my standard, no bigger than height 608, it's a 62K file now, which is smaller. And the quality here was defaulted to kind of low. I want to raise that to 100. Now it's a 200K file. So you can control exactly, the height, the width, the quality. You can check to see how big the file is because it'll tell you over here. And then you just, give it a new name and you've got it saved for web, but you have not affected the original piece. You still have the original image, right? Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
So Heidi, is it the same for Instagram as it is for Facebook? Would it, or do you?
I don't know for sure. That's a good question, but I think it's worth experimenting if you're noticing that things are not. I mean, Instagram is photo. It's all about the photos, so they really shouldn't be doing that. I just noticed it with header images for because we deal with text things. It was a header image for the Winona Art Walk, and it had all the lettering in there, and it was getting kind of crappy looking, and the red color was kind of how degraded, how it gets kind of pixelated and blurry around the solid colors around letters, and it just looked really terrible. And then I did a little research and it said, well, if you do it as a ping, it doesn't automatically resize it and reduce the quality for you. So especially when you have things with text on them, you want to check them out and make sure that they will not be degraded and look unprofessional and ugly.
Good.
So I think we're getting to the end of time. I know Johanna had some more things she wanted to talk about.
Right. Yeah. And yep, seeing we're almost 3:00 here, just about to wrap us up. If anybody else who uses iPhoto or the photo program in Mac has that answer for Margaret Keeney on the how do you see the DPI in iPhoto? I'm not sure about that. I know if you click on Get Info, you can see the dimensions, but I don't know. I'm honestly not sure what all those numbers mean because I am not the photo editing expert. But if anybody has an answer for that, feel free to share that in the chat. Just before we wrap up here, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming. Thank you, Mary and Heidi, for presenting. I will, so we've been recording this session. Next week, I will send around a follow-up email that includes the recording, and we have a little evaluation form if people would be willing to fill that out. Just a few questions, that would be great. And I also just wanted to take this opportunity to say a few more words about RAA. I know several of you here are members already, which is great, and several of you may be new to RAA or haven't participated in events with us before. So just to share, for those of you who need an introduction, we are a nonprofit organization based here in Winona. We are a membership organization. Our mission is to support and celebrate regional arts and culture by organizing educational programs, community events, and public art projects while promoting opportunities for artists and facilitating collaborations between organizations in the Winona region. I'll go ahead and share the link to our website in the chat here if you'd like to find out more about RAA. And we'd certainly invite you to become a member if you're interested and you are not one already. Some of the benefits of membership include being able to have a member page on our website, an artist page for your work, like we saw a few of those examples for people. Also being able to share your events or news or exhibits, things like that in our weekly newsletter, on our website, on our Facebook posts that go out. I'll also post a little link to where you can read more about membership here on our website. So I'd encourage you to check that out. We'd love to have you join us if you're not a member already. Please feel free to get in contact with me if you have any questions. And like I said, I will send around some follow-up. So thank you, everybody.